and get started. Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Susie Huminski. I'm the Sustainability Coordinator here at Southern. We appreciate that you came here tonight and hope that you enjoy the program that we have. So part of what we're doing tonight is introducing a program with Lynn Stoddard with Sustainable CT, but also to introduce that sustainability overall is collaborative, that different councils, different stakeholders, different individuals, businesses, organizations, all sectors have a role to play, and that we need to do this together. So overall, Southern is about 10 years into a climate action plan that began in 2008 with a pledge to become carbon neutral as soon as possible, or 2050 at the latest. We've made significant progress and adapted the plan along the way in ways that we didn't see it originally happening. We're really proud of the progress that we've made, but we also recognize the challenges that we have ahead, and that the only way that we can do this is to do it together. So I need to share that our big solar project that's been in the works for a couple of years that is in construction every single day. It's offered today, but we have a 1 megawatt capacity that's going in on the western side of campus, and another megawatt capacity that will go in after that on this side of campus. We recently completed a 4-year contract to procure 100% renewable energy, which cuts our carbon footprint for buildings by over 50%. So none of those things looked like it was on the horizon when we started with our climate action plan 10 years ago. We have this building, which we'll tour. The science building is LEED Gold certified. It's quite an accomplishment for a laboratory space that's as energy intensive as this one is. But because of the teamwork and the collaboration that was involved, we were able to complete that project in 2015. Along the way, we'd like any of you to ask questions that you have. We're happy that you're here. This program is for you. We want to make sure that you get from it what you're looking for. And I also want to acknowledge one more individual who's here. Christine Broadbridge is the Executive Director at Southern for Research and Innovation. Beyond the construction, beyond the planning, beyond the collaboration, innovation is also an important piece of what Southern is trying to move forward. And the research component of innovation is also something that Christine has particularly accomplished here at Southern. So the other organizations that are here, the Connecticut Green Building Council, James Alvis, Lynn Stoddard, our featured speaker for tonight with Sustainable CT, and Heather Burns, the director of the Connecticut Sustainable Business Council. There's a networking portion of the evening, so if you are a student, would you raise your hand so everybody knows who each other are? And if you're a member of the Green Building Council or somehow associated with that, by show of hands. And then the Business Council. So here as well. So thanks everybody, and I'll turn it over to James.
Great. Well, thank you, Susie. First of all, I do want to thank Susie and Southern Connecticut State University for hosting this event. We're very grateful for organizations that are able to host our wide variety of events, and we really appreciate you being accommodating in doing so, and appreciate the great work that you're doing in your office to make Southern a more sustainable environment. And I want to thank the Connecticut Sustainable Business Council as well. Heather and I have talked a number of times over the last couple of weeks about ways we can be more collaborative, so looking forward to doing that as well. For those who don't know, The Connecticut Green Building Council is a nonprofit organization. We are a chapter of the United States Green Building Council, and it's our job to promote sustainable and green building practices throughout our state. So we have about 200 dues-paying members. They range from architects and engineers and other design professionals to building operators and folks who do work at universities like Susie. And we also have an emerging professionals group. So for the students, you could be eligible for a discounted membership rate of $25 a year. We offer our members a number of networking opportunities as well as discounted rates to all of our events. And we do events like this one where we bring forward some of the new trends and topics in the green building industry. We also do an annual awards ceremony, which is coming up on October 4th at Stony Creek Brewery in Branford. I urge everybody to check it out and buy a ticket. We have some phenomenal award winners that we're going to be celebrating. We have one person who served on our awards jury in the audience, Mark Leffler. He had the very tough job of sifting through a really impressive pool of applicants and nominees for our submission. So thank you, Mark, for doing that work. And we're really excited to be highlighting some of the amazing green building projects in our state on October 4th. So with that, again, thank you all for coming. And I'd like to turn it over to Lynn Stoddard, who is with the Institute for Sustainable Energy at Eastern Connecticut State University. She's also a Connecticut Green Building Council board member, so we're very happy to have her on our team. And of course, she's going to be talking to you about Sustainable Connecticut today. So thank you.
So thanks everyone for coming and your interest in this program. We've heard about the different partnerships around sustainability in the state. Sustainable CT focuses on communities and making change at the very local level. And we've built a program over the past couple years that accelerates and recognizes sustainability by our towns in Connecticut. And most of the actions that you'll see we'll talk about are within the actual authority of towns to influence, but there are some things within this menu that also relate to businesses and residents and partnering with different sectors to build sustainability in our communities. So I thought I'd use the website to take you through the tour of the program because it's packed with information and you'll become a little familiar of where to find things if you want to look later on. So primarily, the program is about three things. It's a roadmap of best practices for towns. How do I become more sustainable in my town? What do I do? How might I get there? So that's a list of actions, similar to the LEAD list of actions. It's resources and support to help towns accomplish those actions. And the third piece is actual certification. So towns getting points when they've accomplished certain actions, a rigorous review, and then towns become Sustainable CT certified. So that's the overview. And I'm going to dig into some of the details. Let me just see. Oh, a couple other things I wanted to tell you about before we get rolling is the program was developed over the past 2.5 years basically by hundreds of people, municipal leaders in Connecticut and other stakeholders who sat around working groups for 6 or 7 months talking about what are the best practices for Connecticut towns and sustainability. So we like to say it's created for towns by towns, and there's a lot of broad just kind of representation of the municipal perspective. The program's completely independently funded. So I'm at Eastern, sister university to Southern, at the Institute for Sustainable Energy, which is all grant funded. This program, Sustainable CT, has today been almost completely funded by 3 Connecticut foundations, the Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation, Common Sense Fund, and Hampshire Foundation, who see this as a way to build a very broad, comprehensive platform for towns to engage in sustainability and individuals. So I'll talk a lot about towns and the actions, but at the core, this is about people in our communities creating a place where they want to live and work and play. And I always say our biggest sign of success would be if all of you who are students here in Connecticut start to say, we want to stay in Connecticut and live and find jobs here because it's a cool place to live and we can help shape that. That to me is success. So, you know, there's certification for towns and all that, but underneath it, it's really about getting many people engaged in creating a more livable state for us. So let's see, I'm going to start with the first pillar, which is the roadmap of actions. And we essentially broke our roadmap into 9 different categories plus an innovation category. So some of this for those of you familiar with LEED and for certainly the Green Building Council members, there are a lot of similarities. You can see from this list of categories, and the actions are all tucked beneath, that we've defined sustainability very broadly. So we're talking about thriving local economies. We're talking about vibrant and creative spaces in our communities, as well as the more traditional things like energy efficiency, renewable energy, recycling and materials management, land conservation. So I think what I'll do is just give you a sense of one of these categories that's probably resonates more with what you usually think of in terms of sustainability. And since this one has the high performance building action in it, I thought I'd use that as an example of how this works. So there are 55 main actions embedded in all those 9 categories. Each one has a number and a name. And basically, you move into the action and you'll see this similar left menu bar for each one. Kind of the objective of the action, what you need to do, why it's important, resources to help the town do that, funding if there is any, and the actual submission requirements for sustainability. So we defined high performance buildings at this point, which I see as kind of a placeholder, as a building that achieves an ENERGY STAR score of 75 or higher, so that's an ENERGY STAR certified building, or LEED Silver or greater. And in our case, these are buildings owned by a municipality. So these are, you know, things that towns actually have control over and can show their efforts towards sustainability. Other actions are kind of planning and inventory actions, or actually implementing things like low impact development, rain gardens and bioswales and things like that. So we can kind of go through any more actions if you'd like. I wanted to also point out that each action has a series of what we call our benefit icons, and so we've sorted by probably 8 different categories of associated co-benefits. So some of them are environmental, obviously. Some have specific greenhouse gas emission reductions. Some have great health and wellness benefits. There are cost savings directly to the town for things like energy efficiency. Economic well-being is more about cost savings and job creation on a broader scale to the town. Climate resilience, community building, and equity. I'm going to talk for a minute about equity as an overarching concept of the whole program. So the certification overview, we've started with 2 levels, bronze and silver, and we're actually in the first year of the program. We launched it last November, and we are just reviewing the first batch of submissions from towns, and we'll be announcing those next week, so stay tuned. It's going to be pretty exciting. So towns can either be bronze or silver. They have to do a broad range of things, so at least one action in each category, but flexibility of which action that is. They have to have applied the equity action to another action. I'll talk about that in a minute. And they have to have completed a threshold of points. So you'll see the equity action is in both levels, and it really, in a sense, is the only required action in the program. And what we did is we had an equity working group and got input from lots of stakeholders and looked at national practices in other cities about how to create an action, a process that looks at being inclusive, including all members of the community, valuing diversity, and so on. And so that action is essentially a process that you walk through a list of questions and have to apply them to another action in the roadmap. So for example, we had a workshop to help towns pair the equity action with housing. And there's an action about looking at your housing stock and are there diverse housing and affordable housing. So looking at that from kind of the equity toolkit lens, you've got to kind of see income levels, age population, cultural differences, economic differences, and so on, that we want to make sure that towns have housing that serves the needs of current and future demographics in their communities. So that's the roadmap. I mentioned the second part is essentially resources to help towns get certified. So we have, well, lots of workshops that help towns that are aligned with the actions. So they're not necessarily things we're putting together. Some of them are our own workshops, some are others that help towns accomplish the actions. And we specify which action they're tied to as we list them on here. We also have, in terms of resources, a grants portal. So right now this portal is dumping in, we're filtering grants that are out there from the state or the federal government or nonprofits that help towns accomplish any of the actions in the roadmap. In January we'll be unveiling our first Sustainable CT municipal grants. We have a funder that's pledged money, so that will be money that's directly coming through Sustainable CT to help towns with these actions. The cool thing about this, if any of you are in towns and working on this, is we've tried to make the website really user-friendly. So, well, there's lots of grants listed there, but you can basically get on a listserv to get grant alerts as they get posted, get them by category, like so for this specific action or a different one. You can sort this according to action or keyword, so it's really pretty powerful to sort for the brownfields one. And another great resource I wanted to mention is our fellowship program. So we unveiled a fellowship program this year that we basically put out a call to our colleges and universities across the state and asked for applicants who wanted to work for the summer on this program to assist towns. And we ended up with a fabulous group of students, 12 students from 9 different colleges and universities. We trained them kind of centrally up at Eastern for a day. We had strong connections with them, but we dispatched them into the Council of Government offices around the state so that they could be in the regions really serving towns on the front lines. And so these students help towns understand the program. They help them prepare applications for submission. They were absolutely fabulous, and we found in reviewing the submissions from towns that those that took advantage of the fellows have much more successful and easier to review applications, as well as those who attended our workshops and events. So Brooke was one of our fellows, and I wanted to just ask her to say a few things about the experience, because we will be repeating it this summer, and the towns are like saying, we want fellows all the time, ramp this up. So I imagine it growing and expanding over time, but you want to just share some of your impressions?
Hi everyone, my name is Brooke Mercaldi. I'm a junior here at Southern. Like Lynn said, I was one of the fellows. I was located in the Northwest Hills Cog up in Goshen for the summer. Overall, it was an incredible experience. We got to learn not only like really how local governments function, how they work, and how they collaborate with the surrounding towns, but also participating in the program itself and really going through all the actions and finding submissions and everything. It was an incredible experience, and I found that the towns were also really enthusiastic about it. I don't remember the exact number of registered towns that there were when I first started. I want to say it was 30 to 40.
Yeah, probably in the beginning of the summer.
Right, but then it was like 2 or 3 months later, it's already at 63 registered towns, so it's definitely growing a lot. I've heard amazing things about it as well. It was just I loved it, and I know the program's just going to keep expanding and just getting better and better every year. So I'm a very strong advocate for it.
Yeah, great, thank you. I mean, we can have a little interaction if anyone has any questions for Brooke now or later on. Feel free to ask, but we will put out the call again, so if any of you are interested, stay tuned. You'll find it on our website probably in the early part of the 2019.
Did you provide housing?
No, so these were students who either live in Connecticut and attend school out of state or attend school in Connecticut, and we tried to place them close to where they live. If they're home for the summer or something like that, they were paid for the work. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, maybe a little bit about the cohort. Like, did you interact much with the other students, or?
The other fellows?
Yeah, the other fellows.
Yeah, I mean, we use this base camp, this program where we always got to interact. So we were always bouncing ideas off each other and giving each other resources and kind of heads ups about actions. We did have some opportunities to meet. I'm still in contact with some of the other people. Yeah, we all definitely got closer over the course of the summer.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so that's the Fellows program, and we intend to have many more resources like that. In fact, here's a fun picture of the Fellows playing at the Adventure Park in stores after the end of the summer. So that's kind of the skeleton of the program. I want to talk a little bit about the results so far. But I'll pause first if anyone has questions on any of the areas. Yes?
Can you tell us more about the equity portion of that, with that, like what you do with that?
Yeah, so it's interesting. The certifications we're going to announce next week, it is kind of a screening in a sense because it's a required action. You have to do it to 1 or 3. And in some cases, that was a limiting factor for towns. It's a tricky thing and a difficult thing because it's process oriented. So they had to apply it to a new action. For certification, towns can get credit for things they've done in the past. But equity had to be a new thing because you had to first think about what are your goals as a sustainability team in your town for understanding inclusion and valuing diversity. So you kind of identify those as they relate to the action. And then what are your neighborhoods, what's your population like, what's your demographics? Kind of explaining that, understanding it. And then, as you begin to apply it to the action, like housing or something, how do the demographics of your population mesh with the housing you have in town? And can people who are paid minimum wage afford to live in the town? Does it mean that teachers and house cleaners can't live in your town? Those kinds of things. And the towns had to actually do that analysis and then present it at a public meeting. So this is our data from housing, which was all supplied by the Partnership for Strong Communities, a great housing organization and nonprofit that we partnered with. So all the data was there. We asked the towns to digest it, think about it, and present it at their, at a public forum. And there were just really some great conversations and opening the door on the start of how does it look in our town. And in lots of cases, we have a very aging population that's continuing to age in Connecticut, and not a lot of housing for younger people. So we have kind of a suburban landscape in many parts of the state, and that's not necessarily affordable or desirable with your age group. So, or aging populations who need ability to live, at one level and walk to things and decrease dependence on driving. So that one is actually really, kind of potential for very transformative action, doing that analysis in your town and looking forward to how you want to be and what you need to provide for. Is that, yeah. Yes.
Could you repeat the name of the firm you partnered with on that?
The Partnership for Strong Communities. It's a nonprofit based in Hartford, and they have done a great housing profile for every town in the state.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes.
I'm curious about why this started in Willimantic and at Eastern. Did it follow a model that was found somewhere else in the country, or is this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, why did it start at Eastern? A few things came together with the type of work our institute had done, our capabilities in working statewide, funders who wanted to see this happen, but we had successful models in other states. So we looked at, we're part of a multi-state network of a dozen states across the country, and includes Mass Green Communities, Sustainable Jersey, programs in California, Florida, Minnesota, Michigan. They're all slightly different, but there's some kind of community sustainability certification program, some focus just on energy, some are broader. Sustainable Jersey is the longest running and most mature and comprehensive program, so we modeled very closely on that, and there's a lot of great sharing in this network with other states. In fact, this website, which is very interactive and super sophisticated, we bought the license from New Jersey and reformatted it and branded it for Connecticut. So, for example, when a town registers, they get their own municipal dashboard internally. And as they start to work on actions, these things planned and unplanned, they can keep track when they actually submit. It's all online through this dashboard, through the interactive website. You can see on the right there, as a town begins to submit or plan things, it tallies up how many points they have they hit one action in each category, and so on. So, yeah. We're really grateful to New Jersey for the sophistication of this website, because it's amazing. So that, and we continue to work with New Jersey and the other states on both sharing resources that each has developed and collaborating on things that are kind of the next step. Yeah. Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Provide some insights into did you target specific parts of the state? Or can you give us an idea about what the saturation was? Did you have a certain county more interested in registering?
It's a great question. That was going to be my next. So there you go. That's the map. We're at 63 towns, which is over 37% of the state in less than a year, which is we're really thrilled with that. As you can see, we've got a little pocket in Eastern Connecticut that we're working on, of very small towns with not large staffs, but there are other towns in other parts of the state that are also small. So we're very excited that we have 3 towns under 2,500 people in population, so 3 of our smallest towns. We have 3 of our largest cities, over 100,000, that have registered, and everywhere in between, pretty good geographic spread. And here's another cool thing about the website, the interactivity of it. Let's pick Naugatuck. So you can click on a town. At this point, because we haven't certified towns yet until next week, you can see when they registered, the resolution they passed to become part of the program, who the main contact is. So if you live in Naugatuck and you think you want to get involved in this, you call that person. In a couple weeks, when you click on this, if Naugatuck is certified, you will be able to see every action they did and read all of their documentation. So if they did the housing action, you'll be able to see their housing data profile, how they did that analysis, what they learned at the public meeting. It's all designed for peer sharing and peer learning and transparency. So you can look by town, or you can also, you're able to sort by the map by action. So these actions here, you could again, they're not certified yet, so you can't do it, but you could click on the first, local economies, and you could see all the submissions under that category. So we think it's a pretty powerful tool. So that's the first, answer to registration, which means the towns has said that they want to join. But now we're in certification and can't tell you yet because we're announcing next week, but I can tell you that we had submissions from every county in the state. We had submissions from our smallest towns as well as our largest towns and everything in between. We had submissions that hit every action because, as I said, they can choose which action in a category. And just really, really strong engagement. Thanks in great part to the fellows because they were the public face of the program. We have a staff of 4 people essentially in Willimantic and at Eastern. So, getting out into the towns and really holding their hands and walking them through we do what we can, but the fellows tremendously amplified our capacity there. So, yeah. Does that answer your question? Okay. We actually, because we involved every town in the state in the creation of the program in one way or another, it was either an elected official or a town staff person or a resident sitting on one of the working groups or a regional health district or something representing multiple towns. We've had just a tremendous pipeline of towns ready to register at the start because they're familiar with the program. They're co-creators. They were eager to jump in and experience the program and the resources. So I think, if there are any other questions, I'm happy to take them. I just wanted to mention 2 things, 2 upcoming events. This is one. On the 22nd, we're having, just kind of a conclusion of the year for any towns, whether they participated or not, whether they submitted and got certified or not at Eastern, to just kind of get input to celebrate the success of the first year and learn from the towns. We've heard a lot. We've already made a lot of changes on the fly as we've been going, but it'll just be a time for sharing the experiences and for us to learn more and to celebrate. And you also get a green tour of campus if you come. You can see our new LEED arts building and so on. And the other event I just wanted to mention, and I'll take your question, the actual certification event, the official first one, will be held at the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities Annual Convention on October 30th. It's where local officials go for the annual meeting every year and gather. And so at the luncheon, we'll be presenting the awards, and then we'll have lots of other awards and recognition opportunities in the communities themselves. Yes.
My question is, I'm in the energy efficiency industry, and I'm curious whether all the excellent work that the towns are doing, is it giving rise to a sense of wanting to improve in my case, energy efficiency, or so there's a lot of baselining going on, there's a lot of understanding of where are we now. Mm-hmm. Is it giving rise to that sense of, okay, I really want to sort of take on some action to get to another place or get to another level?
I would say definitely. This first year, because they can get credit for past action, there's a lot of kind of recording what they've done, but the gamification of it all really drives towns. They're very point driven. Sometimes we have to say chill, this is about process. This is about getting people involved in your communities. It's stop being so fixated on the points. So we created a monster. But yes, I think it is definitely driving action. And the energy one, basically, one of the performance actions is demonstrating a reduction in energy in your municipal buildings over time from a baseline that you choose. And we've made a data request through Portfolio Manager, so it's a pretty easy submission, assuming towns are tracking their data. And we actually did have one town successfully demonstrate a reduction that will be getting points for that. So that's pretty cool. It's kind of a ladder. The energy actions, the first one's benchmark and track. The second one is show a reduction, high performance building, and so on. So it's kind of steps, and we're leading them along. Yeah. Yes.
How far back in time can a community go and still get credit?
Yeah, so each action has a piece at the bottom that says credit for past action. If it is something like a solar installation on their schools, it goes back 10 years or whatever, a LEED building as well. If it is, we held an event to help people understand the Home Energy Solutions Program and get their homes audited, it's a 1-year look back. So it varies depending on kind of the permanency and the persistence of the action. Yeah.
I've been trying to think of a way to say this, so I apologize for any bluntness, but what is the point of being certified? What comes from being certified?
That's a great question. So as I said, the towns are we had a lot of type A towns in this first group. They're very driven by wanting to be the first, the best, the top, certified. So there's that, like fame and glory, just being able to say you're better than another town or something. But there's also, we have tremendous resources. So I mentioned we'll be unveiling municipal grants, which is dollars directly to towns to help them. Up till now, we've had our support, which has also been dollar valued, but we haven't had towns apply. So for example, one of the actions is doing a climate vulnerability assessment for your town. Where are we vulnerable to a changing climate? And we partnered with the Nature Conservancy and asked towns, if you're interested, submit a letter and you can get a half-day workshop in your town by the Nature Conservancy. You bring the people to the table and they will walk you through how to identify your climate vulnerability and help you kind of put a report together and prioritize those actions for your town. So many towns took advantage of that. We didn't make them apply, get the money and get a consultant. We just kind of handed them the free resource. Same with Partnership for Strong Communities. The team there was available for consulting hours for towns. We had the equity action because it's a little different and process-oriented, was harder for towns to get their minds around. So we actually had we have equity coaches, and towns were able to get up to 4 hours of free consulting time, coaching time through that. So there are many resources embedded. I think the opportunity to kind of share with peers what you've done. Once you're certified, you're up on the map, and towns can see your complete streets policy or your plan of conservation development that integrates sustainability or whatever. So you can both kind of showcase that you're a leader, and you can peer in and see everyone else's and learn from that and be like, oh, okay, I got this, and do it in your town. So we feel like there's, on top of that, the engaging people. As I said, it's really about people in the end run. Towns have said to us, we've found this as a really great way to bring together multiple committees in our towns. Many towns are overcommitted. They have an energy committee, a recycling committee, a land use committee, and so on. And this is a platform that's comprehensive and helps towns integrate and coordinate their committee work kind of towards a goal. And so towns are approaching that differently, but some of them are calling together the chairs of all the committees and saying, hey, here's this great program. We know you care about this stuff on local foods because you're the ag committee. How about you work on that? We're working on this together. We're showing like success in our town and the breadth of our commitment.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. How are we doing on? Okay, 3 minutes. Any other questions? Yes.
I have a question. I'm sorry, I have a cold, but in our Honors 300 class, and some of the people here are also in it, I know you touched like for a second upon like a rain garden. We're actually building rain gardens in our Honors 300 class for the sole purpose of sustainability in New Haven. And we actually went to the New Haven Housing, what is it, Authority or Services or something like that. And we basically got like a 101 little course on like how rain gardens help sustainability, and you know that the building that they're in is LEED certified. So the two classes, this class especially, kind of mesh together. So see, I've never even heard of any of this before. So seeing it and like actually in real life is something different. So just a comment that it's nice to like learn about it. And
Yeah.
come to like fruition in real life. So
That's great what you guys are doing too, because there's as I said, it's engaging people in the community, but also taking advantage of resources like universities and colleges in your community that can help you do these things. And the towns that are most successful are the ones that have very strong partnerships with nonprofits, colleges and universities and so on. And it makes sense. Yes?
Did you have recommendations on how those multiple organizations could actually either have a meeting or participate together? So, as you said, there's the recycling, the energy, the whatever. Even if they have a goal, they probably don't want to have another meeting.
Yep. So within a town, the various committees? Yeah. Well, I'm the chair of the Sustainability Committee in Mansfield. We are just starting to engage with the program, and what Mansfield is doing is the town manager is hosting a dinner for chairs of the committees to kind of talk about this as a coordinating framework. And so, yeah, I mean, it is another meeting, but they get fed. And we had one initial meeting of the chairs, and everyone just looked around and said, this is so, like, why don't we talk to each other? It's so important. So the chairs and the committee people saw the great value in the integration, so I don't know, there might be some other creative ways to do it. We'll be doing a workshop on successful ways of starting a sustainability team within the CCM training structure, and I think it's going to be in December. It's not announced yet, but we'll have a bunch of trainings on that stuff. Yeah, I think it's time, right?
Yeah. So overall, we'll be able to continue conversations. We hope you can join us both for the building tour and for the informal conversations after that. Again, a big thank you to Lynn. And a nod to all of the effort and the experience that it has required to put together this program and to collaborate with other states to accelerate the progress that she is helping Connecticut make. So,
thank you.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.